Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Xraised, where knowledge meets inspiration in the intricate dance of industry evolution. My name is Miles, and as always, I'm thrilled to have you with us for another episode, packed with insight, inspiration, and the kind of wisdom that sticks with you long after the conversation ends. Especially this one with our guest, who's no stranger to transformation. In fact, he's built a life and career around it. From finance to entrepreneurship, from hedge funds to education, he's navigated four continents and countless reinventions of his own. He's a board director, an executive leadership coach, a global investor, and an author, leading a firm dedicated to helping professionals and executives unlock their full potential, align their careers with their values, and lead with authenticity. What I admire about him most is that his story isn't one of those overnight success. It's about resilience, resourcefulness, and redefining what it means to win, not by society's standards, but by your own. Here on the show, once again, is the founder and coach at the Institute for Greatness, Anthony Se. Anthony, hi. Welcome
Hello,
back.
Miles. Thank you. Always good to be
Good.
back.
Thank you for being here despite your busy schedule. Good morning to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, you've been a part of some of our truly powerful conversations here, and our topic today feels like the heart of everything you stand for, the power of reinvention. We're going to be talking about redefining success on your own terms, and honestly, I think that's something everyone's been craving lately. And we know you've coached countless professionals through career pivots, but I'm still curious, Anthony, when you hear the word reinvention, what does that actually mean to you on a personal level?
Great for making that the first question. Actually, it's a very good coaching question because this is what I asked, which is kind of how do you define reinvention, right, on your terms? So for me personally, it means a lot of buzzwords come out to be growth, progress, achievement, adaptation, purpose, trial and error. But to me, also, the key thing for me is actually it's a necessity, and necessity in a sense that because the world changes every day,
Mhm,
so as individuals, we also need to reinvent ourselves.
mhm.
So it's something that, yeah, in order just not to even to grow, just to keep up, you need to reinvent. So that's why I make it a necessity, which actually I find for my clients, it's not very receptive to them sometimes that it's a necessity. And then the last thing is it's lots of fun. Yeah, to me, it's actually, I'm not saying it's becoming a game to reinvent, but
Exciting.
yeah, exciting every time I reinvent myself. I feel, yeah, it's actually really cool. Yeah. And then just maybe an analogy was more thinking about like, yeah, like a lot of people ask like, oh yeah, like you've reinvented yourself from let's say a finance guy just get yes you said like a hedge fund manager sitting behind a Bloomberg screen,
Uh-huh.
looking at charts, looking at tickers, just thinking about money to now empowering others, helping others become much more than they've been programmed to think. To me, actually looking back, that's more of that's a kind of necessity for me was I had to do all this to realign my own values and purpose. So in the process, I reinvented myself. So
Uh-huh.
that's just an example of yeah, when you ask me that question about what reinvention means.
Yeah, so have to. You tie reinvention to self-awareness rather than just, career moves. It's almost like the starting point is not what do I do next? I think it's more of like who am I becoming next? And it's like seeing the bigger picture. So many people feel stuck in what looks like success on paper, Anthony. They're doing great by every external measure, but something still feels off. So, from your experience, what's the first sign that someone's ready to redefine what success really means for them?
There are a few. I would say the most common one would be when somebody feels stagnant or just not good enough all the time, right?
Uh-huh.
And Miles, have you heard of the term imposter syndrome?
Yeah,
Right, so that's a very
it's very
common
common
sign.
now.
Well, it's very common now, especially, yeah. especially with we talked about this social media, right? Everyone's
Ah,
comparing, oh, I'm just not good enough, or
yeah.
compared to that person. So it's always comparing against others, right? It's always the word like should. I should be doing this, or
It should be
yeah,
like that.
it should be like that because other people are like that. So that's the first sign. I would say the second sign, it's it's similar to imposter syndrome, but it's kind of the emptiness. So you have all the glamour, you have the flattery, you have the money. So yeah, on paper, everything seems great, but then suddenly you feel the next the reaction is like, but
Okay.
so what? Right? Or that's it. Like I've met a lot of people where they they get promoted, they make a lot of money, and then or get to the top. And then suddenly it's like, oh, I'm at the top. Like that's it. Like
What
what is
else
there?
are there?
Yeah, what else is there, right? So to me, it's that's the wrong love language. It's we think about relationship with people, and then we talk about marriage, and there's a love language, right, between people,
Yeah.
and there's also a relationship between us and success. And
Mm.
so this is what we call the wrong love language is how I define it. So for me is I think about what is the key question, right, to ask here. So one question would be, how does your current success align with your values and purpose?
Uh,
And you'd be surprised. A lot of people who are successful on paper, who are senior, they actually don't know how to answer that question well, or they actually have never even thought of it. And because the success they've been chasing has always been defined by others, not their own success, right? And in order to do that is you need to first define your own values and purpose.
okay.
So that's the first thing to think about.
Mm.
So like for example, it's like wearing a fashion designer clothing, right? It's like, oh wow, this one is so famous, or
Yeah.
it's featured in some fashion show or some magazine, and you put it on, but it doesn't feel comfortable,
It's not for you.
right? Yeah, it just doesn't fit. It's not aligned with you, who you are, or what you're looking for, right? So it's a very simple, like a simple metaphor,
Hmm.
and like for me, for example, like I went through that journey where it's like, oh, you get the big bonus, you get money, you get title, and everything looks great on paper, right?
Yeah.
But then after a day or so, it's like you feel high, and then it's like, okay, so what's next, right? And then like I ask myself, how does this actually change my life? And
Yeah.
then somehow it doesn't. I can't answer how it changes my life on a day-to-day basis because these are not things that I value most. I'm not saying it's not important, right? Of course, everybody
Right.
wants a big bonus and stuff, right? But it's not aligned with my ultimate. Or it's not in the top priority
Hmm.
of what I value and then what I wake up for every day.
Yeah, it's like customized for you. It has to be. And you said we have a relationship with success, and success without alignment, I think, really does start to feel like burnout dressed up in a nice suit. As
Oh, I
you
like that.
had, yeah. And I'm sure a
Yeah.
lot of professionals like you will relate to that realization moment when that you mentioned. And reinvention sounds very inspiring, but it's rarely easy. What inner battles or maybe limiting beliefs do people have to confront before they can move from fear and uncertainty to real purpose-driven change, Anthony?
Mm. Yeah. So a continuation. This is a continuation of our previous question, which is great. I
Yeah.
I want to bring up kind of the word imposter syndrome again because that is a crux of why we run into these issues and have limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So it is important to figure out how to overcome this, right? That's not good enough, or I can't do it, because this also ties into I haven't done it. So haven't done it is actually, yeah, it's a fact, right? It's just or it's too hard. I haven't done it.
Yeah.
But the question is, we always start from somewhere, right? You only where you are because you've done a lot of things that you hadn't done previously.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the problem here, right? So the problem is we as humans, we often associate our identity with our experience.
Uh-huh.
Experience is, or let's say in this case, work experience, and a career plays a big part in our identity, right? And experience by definition is backward looking because, as I said earlier, it's things you've done already that builds your experience. So
Yeah.
all of this is in hindsight. And so when we look in the future, things, so from this moment, this very second onwards, are things we haven't done before. And sometimes we feel we aren't in control. Okay. So
Yeah.
if you come, if you can believe that you're in control in paving your own path, then that is a very important step in just kind of reframing everything. That it sounds like, oh, the path you had walked, it's easy to look back because yes, everything was already done. And then from this moment onwards, if somehow you can tell yourself that the path I had walked was actually paved by myself, and then now I'm just going to continue paving my path forward from this moment onwards. So you feel there's a greater sense of control, which is often why there's this kind of imposter syndrome. Like for example, right, like again, looking around you, a lot of things that people you associate with, right, like your spouse, your friends. I mean, that's all. I mean, for most people, that was all within your control because you chose to be with these people.
Mm-hmm.
You chose to marry this person, right? Generally, it's not by chance. And so, yeah, you need to first then create a future version of yourself to believe that, yes, I'm moving towards something. And
Yeah.
so being able to visualize is critical. So, like, for example, if I ask you, Miles, like, oh, why don't you visualize if we were sitting here, say 6 months from now, right,
Mm-hmm.
in May of 2026, describe to me what you'll be doing or the new version of yourself. What would that be? Right. So it's like
Yeah.
the ability to do that. And all successful people do that. Actually, if you read books about all these successful entrepreneurs, it's not like they just ended up the way they are by chance. Maybe some things they did, but in general, for if you do this year after year to get to where they are, it's their ability to visualize that, yes, I'm not there yet, but I will be there.
Yeah. There's
Right.
a vision.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, because the only way, because everything by chance, it's just not sustainable and repeatable.
Mm-hmm.
And so to overcome the imposter syndrome, it's a journey. It's not something you can do overnight. So you need to have a process that you can actually practice and apply on a daily basis. So you start with visualization, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then you believe that yes, it is within your control to make that vision a reality.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, last thing is really, yeah, it's about feeling like you have control over the steering wheel
Uh-huh.
versus you're just a passenger. That's another metaphor.
Yeah, that's a good one. And it's just interesting how much of our fear is not about failing, but rather about being seen starting over. And I think there's so much courage in just admitting, oh, I think this is not it anymore. And that feels like the real first step, I guess. And that goes back to someone's values, as you said earlier in the beginning, which is like the backbone of all our whys. And wow, I never thought I would say that.
Oh,
And
you just said it
I did,
on record.
apparently.
That's great.
And you made me say that. You made me think about it. And you often talk about aligning careers with values, right? So by the way, I really love that distinction. So how do you help your clients bridge that gap between who they are and what they do without feeling like they're starting from scratch
Yeah, again, I deal with this a lot, which is a lot of people will say, "Oh, I've been doing the same thing.
over
What
and
else can
over?
I do?" Right? It's like, well, I have to start from scratch if I do anything else, right? So, I mean, more of a like a technical way of doing it is kind of you think about what we learned in school. Uh, do you remember the term Venn diagram?
Yeah.
Like these two circles, and there's like an
Yeah,
intersection
I
in between.
remember that. Yeah.
So yeah, something that we learn in school is actually very
Uh-huh.
useful. Yeah, so it's actually, I mean, a very basic exercise that a lot of people of all ages can do, right? It's really just think about your life and what you've done,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just draw it out in a Venn diagram and find the intersection,
Right.
right? And then let's say you draw one Venn diagram, you find an intersection, then you draw
Yes.
another one,
Another one.
Venn diagram. So it's like a chain, right? It's a chain
Yes.
effect. Then you realize that, oh, okay, well, if I want to get from here to there, it's like a bridge. I want to get from here to there,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not building this bridge from this point to point, but it's gonna be step by step, right? And
Right.
which is really how people build a bridge,
Uh-huh.
right? It's you have to do it by section, and then you
Mm.
connect it all together.
Like an evolution, not just a rather than just a restart.
Yeah, that's right. Correct. It's not a. I like that word. It's not a restart. It's a
Mhm.
revolution. It's an evolution. And for example, right? If you think about, like, for me, right, I can think of a lot of different these chains or Venn diagrams. Like, okay, from a father to public speaker, I'll be like, well, I've never been a public speaker. I've never done this. Like, how do I get there? Right. Of course,
Yeah.
it's easier to say in hindsight now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But but I mean, from my personal journey, I think about it too. It's like, oh, I used to be a father. I mean, I'm a father. I started off as a father, and I always talk to people about my philosophy about educating my kids. So that was like the whole preschool journey, right? And then I was doing it to maybe one other person, and then I ended up sharing that philosophy to a group of parents, and then somehow that ended up being seminars, and then from seminars, then I became a public speaker type of thing, right? So that's like an example of kind of, instead of saying, oh, how does a father and public speaker, like how do you go from one to another? It's like that's the journey. And actually, everything that I did along the way was just a building block towards something, towards the next phase, right? So yeah, it's a step by step way of building a bridge.
Right. Right. That's how you frame it. But just a segue question, Anthony. Say 5 years ago, did you see yourself being this public speaker?
No,
I'm just
never.
curious.
I always shared this how I actually was really afraid of public speaking. I always say I'm a super actual introvert. Uh,
Really?
oh yeah. When I define introvert is when I go to a social event,
It drains you.
it totally drains. I don't look forward to it. Even today, I'm not a big guy. So, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting all these people, mingling
Oh,
with these people.
yeah?
It's like if I have a choice, I would
Mm.
definitely prefer not to go. That's actually who I am.
Uh-huh.
Um, But I mean, that's a separate topic. We can talk about how do introverts become, speakers and executive presence and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
I'm excited about that. You better.
Yeah, I coach a lot of people on this too because I had to go through this journey, right, to transform.
Uh-huh.
As you said, it's kind of how do you define like different success in different ways?
Yeah.
But for me was, yeah, I always disliked public speaking. So if you asked me 5 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, that's the last thing I would end up. But it's because of this building block over time, and as you use the word evolution,
Yeah.
where I evolved
Evolution.
into different roles, and somehow these different roles had that overlapping Venn diagram.
Mm-hmm.
That suddenly is like, oh, I actually really like to amplify this aspect of what I do. That's really what happened. Coaching, public speaking, like, yeah, it's not something that I would have thought I would
Yeah.
end up doing professionally.
It's cool because you're building new bridges from what you've already learned, and you're creating
Yes.
new ones to learn.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people can do, to be honest.
Well,
They
it's
just
you
need to
make it sound
know.
so easy,
Yeah.
Anthony. It's so
No,
unfair
I'm not saying
sometimes.
it's easy.
Yeah,
It's
I'm sure.
no, it's definitely not easy, but it's a journey, right? And that's why
Yeah.
having a support team,
Yeah.
like family, friends, a coach,
Mm.
really makes a huge difference.
That's why you're here.
Yeah, that's why I'm
And
here.
well, once that reinvention starts, that realignment of values, mindset, and goals, how does it ripple beyond just the career? What kind of impact have you seen it make in leadership, in relationships, and even personal fulfillment?
Yeah, I like how we are now extending this beyond just career and work, right? Because you're
Yeah.
right. Like it's important. Life is more than just a career. So let's yeah, when we assume different roles, right? Like as you said, personal, family, work. Honestly, I feel that while a lot of the skill set may be different, but the mindset's actually similar when we assume these different roles.
Mhm.
So reinvention is possible uh, because the pillar. I'm going back to starting from scratch and what's transferable. It's ultimately is we believe that we're more capable than we've been programmed to think. So that is actually a very powerful mindset. And often we call this kind of like the growth mindset, right? Which is the
Yeah.
process of growth mindset is how do we grow into that future version? We talked about that
Mm-hmm.
earlier,
Uh-huh.
and then that's when life really becomes fun, and that's for all aspects of life, right? So just to give you I mean, a personal experience and a lot of what other people, some of my clients go through is, for example, so for me is earlier in my relationships, I always found it very difficult to apologize. Right, say to my spouse, to my girlfriend,
Mhm.
and I don't know, maybe at home you apologize, or maybe your husband apologize is the only one who apologizes. But it's funny
This is
because
gonna be a separate topic, Anthony.
oh, I use this analogy because
Yeah, it's a
like
good
at
one.
work, right? Like if you do something wrong and people just like you do something wrong, or if you're friends, you would apologize, even to a
Yeah,
stranger. Like
right.
sometimes outside. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know.
When you're
Sometimes
driving.
you're driving, right? Or you accidentally like slam the door on somebody, or I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, like you do something. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Excuse me, sorry, right? But sometimes at home, you don't do it with the people you love most, which is strange.
ironic.
And
Yes,
right, ironically, right? And it's not because you don't have the ability to do so, but a lot of it really is just the ego
and
masking you, right?
maybe complacency.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
ego, complacency, different reasons, right?
Yeah,
So the idea of a, whether you can do and willing to do are different, right? So like, how do you bridge that? So yeah, well, you need to understand, yeah, like what is masking your ability to do something? It's that ego, right? So
mm-hmm.
that's kind of one. So yeah, like I've been much better now in apologizing in ways I didn't used to because I'm a lot more self-aware. It's really the ego that's
Yeah,
keeping me from becoming that person,
mm-hmm.
right?
Blocking you.
Yeah. So that's more on like the personal side, and then on the leader side, when you talked about leadership, is yeah, like when I coach people on how do you lead a team of different sizes, right? So let's say a team of 1 to 2, 2 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 100. Again, it's a lot as the teams get bigger, of course, it's tougher to lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not your lack of ability to do so. It's number one, it's just that you haven't done it, right? We talked about that. And
Mm-hmm.
then number two is that you believe that you have the ability. So how do you actually unleash that ability to do so, right?
Yeah.
So the key thing is like a lot of it is because when I was leading, say, 2 people, I had a lot of information about the staff or what that person wants. But now as the team gets bigger, I have limited information, right? I
Uh-huh.
can't talk to 100 people 1 to 1 and really
Yeah.
figure out what they want. Yeah, I need to lead them. I mean, that's like a big difference between a mom and pop and a corporation. And that's why a lot of people can say, oh, I can never build a business. I can only run a small business, right? It's not because they can't. It's just that
They
they don't
haven't done it
want to. Yeah, they just don't
before.
want to. They don't want to tap into that version of themselves, right?
Yeah.
So maybe the biggest obstacle here is really just how do you delegate with accountability so you can lead more people,
Uh-huh.
right? So again, it's your ability is there. It's just how do you reinvent yourself? Oh well, I'm missing a tool, and that or tool or skill, and that skill is how do you delegate with accountability?
Yeah, so you can put out that ability. Mhm.
Yeah, and then it ties to kind of the whole reinvention is also sometimes a lot of people find themselves easier to lead others, but
Mhm.
tougher to lead themselves.
Yeah,
So if
that.
you think of right, like it's you don't think about it, right? Because you yourself is actually a person,
Mhm.
and in many ways, is you need to lead yourself to the next stage.
Mhm.
We always talk about to our staff, like, "Oh, you're so capable. You can do all these things. You help them grow." But for us, we feel, "Oh, it's so tough to reinvent ourselves. Oh, to evolve." Right? In a
Yeah.
sense, you need a leader. That leader is yourself. You need to lead yourself.
Mhm. Mhm. Easy to say sometimes, but I'm sure it's quite
Yeah.
challenging to do. But it's amazing how once people step into that space of alignment, everything else starts to shift too. Like how we lead, how we connect, and even how we show up for ourselves. And their professional transformation or our professional transformation unlocks a personal one at the same time. And
Yeah.
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 And Anthony, listening to you, what really stands out today is that reinvention is about coming home to yourself, I guess. More of that. I mean, just the way you explained every point that we tackled, it's such a liberating perspective, especially now we have this world that constantly tells us that keep climbing even when the ladder's against the wrong wall by making sense. But thank you for bringing your honesty and for leaving us again with something both practical and deeply human to think about. Thanks, Anthony.
No, not at all. It's a pleasure. I just feel that yeah, no, reinvention's actually one of the biggest fulfillments in life. At least that's for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something I discovered until yeah, maybe past my 40s. It's interesting
And I
because
guess it really is. Yeah.
yeah, because you just spend your a lot of time kind of working, or it's just I mean, we talked about it. You do it because you feel like, oh, I've been climbing the ladder, corporate ladder, or I've
Yeah.
just been
Right.
following the path everybody else has paved. But you actually don't think about the fact, oh, you know what? I've actually been reinventing myself along the way. You
Uh-huh.
just haven't had the opportunity to take a step back or look
Yeah.
at it from a different lens, right?
Yeah. To be really conscious about it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's
So
why it's
yeah, no, thank
important to take a pause.
it is. It's very
Just a
important. So yeah.
pause, not stop.
Okay, we pause. Let's go. We pause for
Yeah.
2 seconds.
Yes, thank you, Anthony. And that wraps up another episode of Xraised. If this episode with Anthony resonated with you, which I'm sure it did, well, you're ready to explore your own reinvention. Connect with him at ifgreatness.com or find him on LinkedIn through the link below. Thank you guys for being with us, and we'll definitely be back soon. This has been your host, Miles. Stay focused and inspired with Xraised.